So hello and welcome everyone. Whatever time you're joining us, we are glad you've taken the time to be a part of this webinar, something that we feel really passionate about, and we're very, very excited to be able to host this webinar for you. Of course, we're talking about women leaders, and we're also, as you can see, we're titled Shine, She Inspires. So there's a lot of inspiration. And we hope you take inspiration away from looking at our panel as we discuss with our panel. We're going to be talking to some very successful women leaders. So what do we want to do in this webinar? Just a few key things. One, thinking about women and growth as women leaders, as you think about your career and you think about career success, some of the key challenges that are faced by women leaders as we move through that pipeline. We're also specifically going to look at the inspiring cluster of leadership, and we'll talk a bit about why that is in the introduction itself. We'll get some ideas, some best practice. No doubt, as we listen to them, we can think of them as our mentors. They've been there, they've done that, and we can pick up some success stories that will help us as women leaders sitting here or as HR leaders thinking of how to enable my women leaders, give us some ideas to do that. And of course, we're privileged to have some inside views from organizations as well that will start to think about what are organizations today doing to manage these challenges and help women leaders to show their full potential, and of course, for organizations to benefit from that. So this is what we are here to discuss today together. And again, thank you everyone for being here. Just before we start, a little bit about Inspire One. We've been doing this now for over 24 years. There's a number of things we do in leadership, a couple of awards. We're happy to show off every now and then. But really, this topic is very, very close to our heart, and we're so excited to be able to launch this. So who do we have today with us? Well, let me introduce you to our panel, very, very distinguished panel who we'll spend a few minutes with. Let me first introduce Urvi Aradhya. She is the CHRO of Raheja Corp. Now, she's of course driven by the belief that a great vision without great people is irrelevant. Now, she's been instrumental in including the best talent pool and integrating best practices at Raheja Corp, which is leading the group's HR function in the capacity of CHRO. She's of course today, when in our engagement, clearly Raheja stands out as a benchmark for in their industry for what they're doing and how they're enabling women leaders. And she's led the company to being recognized as a growth enabling and career nurturing organization with policies that are benchmarked to global standards. So we really are happy and excited to have Urvi with us, and no doubt we're all thinking about listening in and getting some input and ideas from her as well. Who else do we have on the panel? We also have Amrita with us, and Amrita is as you can see, the MedTech Transformation Officer at Johnson and for over 12 years of extensive global experience, professional experience across India, APAC, the United States. She's demonstrated success in overseeing P&L, sales, marketing, strategy within the medical devices sector. She's also been recognized for adeptly collaborating with cross-cultural, cross-functional teams and showcasing agility, empathy, strong interpersonal skills. So she's led diverse teams through business challenges, including navigating a strategic divestiture. So really a lot to learn from our panel. We're looking forward to listening to them. Of course, myself here just to moderate and facilitate as we listen to these two very, very accomplished leaders we have with us. So with that brief introduction, I just want to briefly set the context as we think back to some research. Today, why is focus on women in leadership so important? Well, only 10% of Fortune 500 companies are led by women. In India, there has steadily been improvement. Women surpass males in 11 of 12 major emotional intelligence characteristics. So that's a powerful reason why we want why we want more women leaders, right? Clearly underrepresented. Boards with a higher number of women have a 53% higher return on equity. And firms that transition from having no female leaders to 30% female leaders report 15% increase in profitability. So as you can see, the research has been over the years. It's not just what's happening right now. I think we're gaining traction. This is the right time to have this discussion because it's on everyone's mind. How do we do this? How do we leverage this potential further? Just a little bit of answering that question, maybe some brief insight, which we'll go through maybe with our leaders a little bit later through this section. But through our point of view, a lot of our point of view is influenced by the research through Connexa. And here's some interesting pieces of information that you see on the screen. Women and men are equally ambitious. The challenges are unique, though, for women and therefore need to be addressed differently. What are some of those challenges? Maybe not assertive enough to make themselves visible as emerging leaders. And of course, to be able to leverage some of that emotional bonding, that emotional intelligence we spoke about to really build a network. And of course, how do women feel? We don't always feel very confident. And therefore, how do we address that gap in confidence, in networking, etc., as we move forward? So when we look at leadership and just open up leadership 360-degree on the next slide, and if you just look at these four behaviors, we think, we act, and you can see these two on the either side of the behaviors, and in the middle there's dealing with people. Now, the area where women seem to need some help, some guidance, some reflection is really on that inspiring cluster, and that's what the research is telling us, which is influencing people, building confidence, communicating effectively. And that's the area we're going to try to focus on during this webinar. So let me stop with the introduction and move straight onto our panel. So the way we will do this, friends, is we'll do this as a question and answer session. We have some questions that we'll keep thinking of and put to our panelists, and then we'll listen in to their point of view. So let's start with a question to both of our panelists. And this is, maybe we'll start with Urvi first, and then Amrita, you can chip in as well. In your experience, let's start at the beginning, the mindset, right? What is the mindset approach you feel women should take in order to leverage strengths that they already have? We saw that research about confidence. So what would you say at the mindset needs to happen?
Okay, so very good morning, Craig, and thank you so much for having me here. Happy to share my views on the topic, which is very close to my heart, as we were chatting earlier. So on this particular question, Craig, I would say that women should really have they should have a growth mindset, first of all. So women in workplace can contribute to more effective decision making by the unique leadership style which they bring to the table, and which can have a very positive impact on organizations' performance and health. While I was talking about growth mindset, women leaders should focus on developing their foundation and the basic knowledge of leadership first, and then move on further with aligning the vision and the operations by way of effective communication and resource management. Now, this involves understanding their unique strength and experiences and preparing for the future roles. In this journey, it's very important to address systematic barriers which they may come across. It's a reality. Let's face it, there are barriers. And leaders should work to identify and reduce these barriers, like unconscious biases, which are very prevalent in every organization. And it is important to have open conversations around that and create a work environment that supports women's responsibility both at work and at home. Here is one important point I would like to make, that human beings are a total package. You cannot compartmentalize them into workspace and a home space, right? I think many times organizations tend to forget this as well. So we typically focus on this. So at Raheja Corp, we have started a very unique program targeted for women leaders. We have named it Shiros, which is expand your potential and your unique leadership style, which is truly a hallmark competitive advantage giving to women leaders. So under this program, it's a 4 to 6 months journey, lab kind of a concept, where there are contextualized workshops, group coaching, mentoring, and finally personal coaching and application assignments. We give them the mentor within the organization. It could be a male ally or a women senior leaders, but actually the focus is on to impart sustainable development that creates long-term impact on their growth and in return organization growth as well. And finally, I would say successful women leaders should adopt challenges as an opportunity and turn them into their progressive progress in their career. They need to have and they need to cultivate resilience, confidence, and collaborative approach. By focusing on continuous improvement, effective communication, and building strong relationship, they can further their career very well. And these are some practical examples when we actually saw the productivity and the measurement of this impact on these programs. Nearly about 45% women leaders were able to take the high responsibility. And that's what I would say, that the women should really approach it holistically across all functions of the leadership. You're on mute. Great.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. We saw a lot of not only the mindset, but also what the organization can do to support that mindset. Thank you so much. Amrita, please.
Yeah, hi everybody. And thanks, Greg, for the introduction, and Urvi for your comments here. If I were to talk about, really addressing this mindset approach from my experience, I would say I myself, and I've seen a lot of other budding women leaders who really struggle with clearly identifying and articulating what their strengths really are. I would say actually take a step back before we think about talking about how to leverage our strengths. Maybe the first step in the process is to actually understand who you are and what are the unique strengths that you bring to the table. And this will have to be an ongoing process, which will involve, introspection, being more self-aware, gathering feedback from your manager, your peers, your stakeholders in the company. And I think once you're able to identify these 3 or 4, key areas where you really excel, based on your own evaluation as well as the external evaluation, I think the next step then is key on how you effectively articulate that and demonstrate that. So here, my advice, I think, to all the budding women leaders out there would be to really stake your claim, like call it out, call out what are your key strengths or what you bring to the table, maybe at the start of a project, maybe in a conversation with your manager or with your leadership teams, or just as simple as raise your hand, right, in a meeting when you have a point or a perspective to share. This is you really staking the claim and making sure at an org level, your stakeholders, your peers, your managers, the leaders have a very clear understanding of what your abilities are and the contribution to the goals and objectives of the organization and the role that you play. And I think lastly, the key is really consistently demonstrating these abilities, bringing out those key strengths in the work that you do, how you conduct yourself in the organization, interact with others. I think that really will help sort of gain, followership, get support as you look at taking on larger roles. I think having said all of this, an overarching point I want to make, being true to, sort of how a lot of us are as women is none of this is possible unless you believe in yourself. And I think some of the statistics also, Craig, that you showed pointed this out, that there is a general sense of lack of confidence, even if it's, that 1%. I think it really pulls women down. I think there's a lot of self-talk or self-doubt that a lot of women go through in their mind. And I think this is something we need to consciously put at rest, even if it's just a daily 10-minute exercise where you give yourself some positive self-talk and help yourself build that confidence. I think that's very important to make sure it doesn't interfere in your journey as you want to shine as a woman leader. So yeah, I think in summary, Craig, I think I would say 3 steps. One is understand yourself to clearly what you offer, to know what you offer. The second is take your claim so your organization understands what you bring to the table. And I think the third is to consistently then demonstrate that, build trust, build advocacy, build followership, and that will propel you to your next role.
Excellent. Beautiful. So we've already got some very powerful practical tips from both of you on what you have done. So thank you so much for that. Let's just look at the ecosystem around us, right? And maybe Urvi, if we can ask you, how important is mentorship and sponsorship for women leaders? You alluded to that a little earlier. And how can they seek and leverage these relationships and this support?
So very important point, Craig, here. As you said earlier in the webinar, your research also said that, women are typically known to be having a lesser networking skill and not reaching out to people. And in turn, actually, this is actually hampering their career growth. So early on, we actually identified that. And I would say women leaders should actively seek out mentors and the sponsors within the organization, outside the organization, in their professional network, across anywhere, wherever they seek, because the support will actually open the door for opportunity and the knowledge and the build confidence. As Amrita was saying, I fully agree with her that at times women shy away from bringing what they actually can offer, and these mentorships actually help them that how they need to navigate the corporate space. So it's very, very important piece for any women who wants to progress their career. Second, I would say it's important to find a variety of mentors and not just stick around to your functional expert people in your domain knowledge, because leadership is very agnostic to any function. And if you just you restrict yourself to your functional mentor, you're going to restrict your leadership style and maybe your growth as well. So be very mindful of reach out to people in a very diverse kind of a network and connect with them. Third would be overcoming traditional perceptions which are built around into the society. So mentorship can be crucial for women leaders, giving them networking opportunities and the guidance, as well as it helps them navigate challenges what they may be facing across. It will also foster skills and the promote career advancement. So these are the things which are very important. It also helps in breaking down gender biases, because many a times in practical sense we have seen in organizations women wants to do, they are very ready to take on the challenges, but at times because of the preconceived perception among people, it's not been offered to them. So you really need to reach out to your mentor and seek out that yes, you are capable of doing much more, and it will also promote diversity into leadership roles. So these are the things which are very important for mentorship and sponsorship. Thank you.
Yeah, no, excellent. I think a lot in your comments for us in HR to think about, to support, but also for women leaders when we see these opportunities to kind of grab them, because they can really help in all the ways that you mentioned. Coming back now to individual leaders, maybe this time we'll ask Amrita, what advice do you have for women looking to build maybe a strong personal brand, as we spoke about earlier, and how can this help them? How can we in their own success?
Yeah, Craig, thank you. So I think being a marketer at heart, brand building is something I'm really passionate about. And I think my advice here would be to look at your personal brand in the same way as you would look at building a brand campaign. So when you're about to start with building a brand campaign, the two key the foundational elements or ingredients that go into building a brand is, again, one, going back to what we just discussed, what are the unique strengths, the abilities, the value proposition that you bring to the table. So, really understanding that using, the three-step approach I had shared, I think that's the starting point as step one. The second ingredient, when we look at building brand campaigns, is what is the unmet need or what is the gap in the market that you're addressing. So here you need to have a very strong understanding of your industry, your function, clearly identify what are those areas of improvements or development. I mean, it could be anything at an industry level, a gap, or at functionally in the function that you work, there needs to be addressed. And once you're able to identify that gap within your domain, you can then think about how your strengths can fit in and really plug that gap. So, you have these two ingredients that will, really help you build your personal brand, coupling your strengths as well as, filling that gap. But the secret sauce, again, goes back to, elements of what Urvi and I both have been talking about is articulate, communicate, and socialize, right? So that's then your brand identity, which oftentimes we probably have it figured out, but we're not proactively articulating that or making sure we're networking and communicating that to the right stakeholders. So this again goes back to what I love calling out is stake your claim, call it out whenever the right opportunity permits, either in a face-to-face interaction or in today's world you have social media to go out there and at your own comfort, from home, taking your own time, you can more appropriately go out there and put out the message that you want to really represents your own brand identity. So I think using these platforms is a really good way for you to then socialize this brand or personal brand of your own that you've built. And if I could quickly just touch upon a very simple example from my experience, when I was leading this divestiture where we were divesting a business unit, the biggest strength I think I was able to identify for myself was that I was able to zoom in and zoom out of situations very quickly. And we were pressed for time. It was a high pressure environment. And that was really needed in that moment. And on the flip side, the gap that we were observing within the team, the sales teams, they were so under pressure to get the transition, streamlined and get things moving over to the new company, is that they were so zoomed in. Every customer had a problem, and they would get lost in the problems, lost in the details, frustrated, struggling to move ahead, struggling to meet, our financial targets as well as our timelines. And I think that's where really I was able to bring my personal brand to come in and fill that gap and really help them zoom in when it was needed, but also step back and look at the bigger picture when it was needed to solve those customer challenges and then help quickly transition the business over. So for me, that came out as sort of my unique value proposition. And now when I, look at going back into a business role, that has been very clearly identified, communicated, and delivered by me for my organization. So I think just keeping in mind that this is a journey, but once you get it right, making sure that it's being communicated, that will be key in your success going forward.
Excellent. Thank you for that great advice. And of course, being willing to share that experience where we can see it really come alive as well. Excellent. Now, of course, to do all of that, you spoke a lot about communication. You spoke about leveraging social, and one key skill that's coming out, it appears, is influence. So when we look at maybe influence as a key skill, can you, maybe we'll ask both of you this time, can you share specific strategies for women leaders to maybe enhance their influencing skill, build a network, etc.? Maybe Urvi, if we can start with you, please.
Okay, so I would suggest, firepower your leadership style. Let me just explain it a little bit more. Adopting skills like empathy, which is very natural, it comes to women. Retain that, have curiosity and collaboration, which is very, very vital in your leadership journey. These skills foster actually supportive and nurturing environment And that will help building stronger professional network for yourself as well. So this is one key thing. Second would be vulnerability and human connection. I can't say enough about actually connecting with people because it's very, very vital. So being vulnerable and allowing others also to be vulnerable can create a more inclusive and supportive workspace. This approach encourages actually the team to be more open. There is to have a more open conversation and bring their authentic self to work, which is, I think, said enough about the authentic leadership, because people look up to people whom they can connect with. So retain that style is very important in influencing your team and your peer level people. Third would be showcasing role models and success stories. I think that all of us have enough people whom we have come across in our journey. Talk about that, connect with them, and this could include inviting successful women leaders in your organization from your sector, especially for your women leadership team or women managers to look up to and aspire to be, and take guidance from them. This has actually helped us as an organization to create a steady pipeline of women leaders in the organization. So these are the couple of things I would advise. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. A lot of deep insight in that, Urvi. Thank you for sharing. Amrita, please.
Yeah, I think this question is very timely because the role I'm in currently is all about influencing without authority. So that's what I do as the MedTech transformation officer at an organization level. So I would say for influence, especially as women, and this is coming out of a leadership development program that I was recently part of, is the key starting point for anyone, I would say, is make a stakeholder map. That's where you really jot down with a pen and paper who are the key stakeholders, either for this project or for what you're trying to achieve or the decision that needs to be made. And literally, I mean, sometimes you can even, make caricatures, draw them out to bring it more to life, and then identify how important each stakeholder, say there are 3 stakeholders, how important is each in the decision that needs to be made for a specific project to move forward. And then to the stakeholder map, I map out the influencers. So who's most influential, right? So say I've identified 2 very important stakeholders who I need to definitely get on board. I also identify maybe 2 or 3 other people who could help me influence those stakeholders. So I know it sounds very complex, but that's the reality when you're in a role where you're probably not directly managing a team, but you have to get a lot of org level change initiatives done where you have to influence several different stakeholders. So I think the stakeholder mapping process, which I've also learned, again, that's been a journey coming out of a long program, has been very helpful for me, because there are certain projects that I may not be directly responsible for in terms of executing, but in terms of making the larger decision on whether this project is a go or a no-go, I have to make sure I have the right stakeholders mapped. I have to make sure that they are all influenced in the right way, either by me or somebody else who has a stronger ability to influence them, so that we make the right decision, which can then be executed moving forward.
Yeah, no, lovely. Just listening to both of you, got the org context, you got some practical tips as well, but clearly influence is a very important skill. We've already got some good insights to take away to build this, maybe even some steps that perhaps we made a note of as we were listening in. Thank you so much for that. So if we step back now, maybe just look at organizations that have been doing this very well. How would you say today successful organizations are actively working to maybe identify and then nurture women leaders? Maybe your own organization, but also what you see, what you hear, what are you experiencing? How are organizations doing this today? Maybe we could start with you.
Thank you. I think there is a lot to be done, and this is a really long journey, I would say. Having been, leading this from so many years, I still, if I have to look back and say that have we done enough, I would say no. There is so much to be done. But let me just share, a couple of things which are very important to start with. First of all, I think it is important to create a culture of inclusivity. So foster an inclusive workplace which values diversity and supports women's unique needs and perspectives. I'll give you one very small example. One of the time, one person, like one very senior level person, came and told me that one of my women manager, she every day calls her home 15 minutes at 1:30, and I had a very open discussion. I said, okay, what is the issue? And he says, no, is it not deviating from the work, and is it not influencing others to not focus? And there actually lies the problem, that you have to educate people that how important for a young mother to know that her kid has come back from school, whether he has eaten or not properly. I think these are small little things which, when I talk about including culture, we really need to talk about it. It may be sounding very basic, but that's what it matters. So eventually it actually passes on among a lot of people, and people start respecting the need women or a mother has when they need to connect with their little kids at back at home while they're working, and it's very natural and it's perfectly all right. Second would be networking and community building. Create and support internal networks or affinity group. So we have created a women-led ERG group, which focuses on this. So provide a platform for sharing the experiences, advice, and support. Uh, Curate leadership development programs specifically for women, because even your research said that there are unique challenges which women face. Also, they have some inherent barriers which is stopping them from progressing further in careers. So one size doesn't fit all, and you really need to have a very focused program which are addressing these issues, which can help them, which can help the networking skill, build their confidence. I think enough can be done about that. Offer them mentorship and sponsorship within the organization. Give them a very senior women leader as a sponsor, because we actually noticed when we started doing that, they really felt, okay, yes, this is doable, because at times, as you said, women and men, when they start out their career, they are at the same level. Somewhere along the line, in mid-career point, women are falling out of the workspace, or they are not progressing to the leadership position. That's where the organization come into the picture, that how they are supporting, how they are providing them the opportunity to navigate these challenges. So that's the third thing. Fourth would be encourage participation in external leadership forums and conferences, so their vision gets expanded and doesn't remain restricted only to your organization. To fortify our efforts and enable the leaders in this journey, we also started inclusive leadership workshop, very specifically only focusing on this. And it is designed to realign our efforts. And it's very important in connecting and making the future towards building an inclusive culture. So inclusivity, bringing people together, giving them the mentor and the sponsors, these are the couple of things which really helps women leader progress in their career. Thank you.
Yeah, no, very nice. I was just, as I was listening to you, that whole ecosystem, there's a number of things that we need to do. Those of us from HR fraternity listening in, it's not just the skill, it's not just a program, but it's a number of initiatives that then come together. And you've done that beautifully, I know already. But it's a beautiful testament to what you want to do, that you continue to stay hungry, that you feel there's much more ahead. That's really lovely to hear. Amrita, do you have a perspective of what causes success in this area?
Yeah, definitely. I know Urvi, you shared a lot of good thoughts there. I think my perspective is more looking at it from a global, multinational company. I think I've always seen a very strong focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Uh, if I were to look back, I started, a large part of my career has been at J&J, and the first time around I started in 2010. So it's almost, 13, 14 years ago. Um, there was a lot of focus on, recruiting, grooming, retaining women talent, even back then at Johnson and Johnson. We had a women leadership committee, women in leadership committee I was actively involved just because it was so inspirational seeing, a lot of women leaders on the top. But the focus then was more towards quarterly, programs, which were speaker sessions, trainings for women employees. Slowly, then I saw the company evolve and add on mentorship programs. So, we shared quite a bit on this as well. So, we identified high potential women and then mapped them to senior, either male or female leaders as their mentor. And then finally, now I would say over the last few years, we have a dedicated global ERG employee resource group for advancing women talent in the company. So, it's I think it's really good to see this sort of commitment, and the group involves both men and women. So it's not just about women inspiring other women. I think men play a huge role in that as well, to make sure that we are giving the right importance to gender diversity at all levels. Specifically, if I talk about also my company, and what sort of keeps me coming back here and staying here is a lot of benefits and that they offer outside of this. I know the certain points were made about women really falling off at a different at different stages of their life. They fall off from that career path that they started on with. But I would say my company does everything to make sure you don't. So from all sorts of support, be it insurance coverage for fertility treatments, flexible work options, or extended leave during pregnancy and delivery. All of these really make it a very comfortable place to work as a women employee. And I mean, I've been through it as well with both my kids at J&J. But I would say what was most surprising to me is when I had my first child, I found out that we had a policy that when I travel for work, which I was traveling a lot at that point, is the company actually offered a service to transport my milk from anywhere in the country to my child who was back at home. That time, we were in Mumbai. So irrespective of where I traveled, through a cold storage courier service, they were able to transport, milk back to my child. So, I mean, when I learned about this, I was amazed. It's something I hadn't expected, and I only uncovered it once I became a mom. So I feel like maybe if people know this earlier on, they're more inspired to stick on within the company. And I think as a returnee, I left J&J for 2 years. I came back. I think I really just came back because of the way the company takes care of the people, the support, the investment made in women employees. I shared earlier that I'm just coming out of a leadership development program as well, which was a 6-month long journey. It was a global program. So I think there's definitely a constant attention and focus, but I do believe that in the Indian context, especially with maybe smaller companies, maybe younger companies, there is a lot more that will need to be done with respect to really making women stay on for as long as they can.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, consensus is there's much to be done. It was lovely hearing some of the best practices from MNCs who've been doing this for a number of years, but also to hear of Indian organizations really focusing now, this becoming important, picking up, maybe even creating some of their own best practices in this area. Really, really lovely to see that movement happening. Maybe we'll briefly talk about any specific initiatives that are particularly useful, in moving this agenda forward, Urvi.
Yeah, so what Amrita said, to add further on that, it's a fact, women in mid-management career are falling out, especially during the childbearing age. So, as an organization, they have really a very big responsibility to take care of it, because career is a very long drawn journey in any individual's life, and so is in any women's life as well. And maybe a one child or two child, those 2 years or 3 years should not hamper their career at all. So there are a number of initiatives which organization can take, and Amrita really mentioned some very beautiful initiative what J&J had taken. To add few further, on that, we are also allowing young mothers of kids who are 2 years or younger. If they have to travel for work, they can take their baby and the caretaker as well, and their journey and their hotel and everything would be taken care by the organization. We allow them, lot of flexibility during this 1 to 2 years, not only the maternity, but even prior to that, from the time they conceive or when they resume work. 1 year or 1.5 years till the baby is about 1.5 to 2 years old, they have a lot of flexibility which has been given, which has really, these initiatives has actually helped. So we've been tracking since last 3 to 4 years. We've been all 100% women who went for maternity leave resume back, and I think across businesses. So that helps a lot. Now coming back to development of women leaders in the organization, we have started a relaunch program. So, there are a lot of women. We understand that there are at times in personal life which may require them to take a break. So, to give an opportunity to these women who had fallen out from the workspace, we introduced the program Relaunch. And this is to build a culture where women employees are given equal opportunities. They can join back. They need not have to lose out for the time period when they were not in the official or formal workspace. And this program will prepare talented returning mothers to take a senior and important role within the organization, which has really been received very well by a lot of women professionals into the industry. Second is for Fab Women is another program what we started by giving a Women's Connect group within the organization, which empowers them with the information which in their personal and a professional life. And third is a Shikhar, which is a high potential women development program at the group level across all the businesses, and which helps them take on the high responsibility. And as I said earlier, given multiple touch points to help them, improve their leadership styles. And last is women-led ERG group. When I said women-led, as Amrita said, there are male colleagues as well, because if you leave them out, you are never going to be successful. It has to be all inclusive. However, it's been led by women to have a better connect and collaborate on solution to challenges faced by women in their particular areas. And that has really helped us. So I think these are the couple of initiatives what we have been doing. Thank you.
Nice, lovely to hear that comment on men as well. Maybe just to take that a little bit further. When we think of what are some ways the organization culture can support women, especially what role do men play in this whole process?
So many a times, as we know, any function or any department is combination of male and men and women. And as we said, there are challenges which are faced very unique to women. Also, there are some perceptions which many a times men feel because they are nice people as well. So they don't give certain high responsibility to women, thinking they may not be able to take on because maybe they have higher commitment at home. But as you said earlier in your research, men and women both have, identical aspiration as well. So sometimes to make men realize that yes, women are ready to take high responsibility and don't have such biases. Again, as I said, they have a good intention at heart. Their intention is good, but maybe they miscalculated by being not giving them the high responsibility. I think that has really helped because in lot of conversations it came across that people say that we want to do it, but my manager says it will be too hard on me. So I think when we made them part of the ERG group, these biases and this perception, more than biases, I would say the perception got cleared. That is a very important part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've seen this as well, creating forums for everyone to speak up on the topic, men, women. We really get to know what's starting to brew, what concerns maybe are starting, and then easier to resolve when we're all part of those discussions. Excellent. So beautiful. Thank you so much. I think from both of you, Urvi, Amrita, a lot of insight, concentrated. You've been willing to come here, share your career success. Also, give us some insights into what are some really inspiring things you're leading or doing, and that your organization is also enabling. So, very, very heartwarming to hear from you. Again, we hope that all our women leaders feel inspired. They have a blueprint that they've taken notes on of things to do. They also know how to leverage their own ecosystem, but as well as our HR leaders who are sitting in have some ideas on what can can they do? For women, we heard a lot of practical advice, self-reflect, know your strengths, ensure that you're speaking up, putting up your hand, speak up, you're leveraging, you're firepowering your leadership. And then, of course, for the organization, a number of practical suggestions on what the organization can do to build this ecosystem. And as we saw at the start, we're not doing this only because we are humanists, we love people, we love our women leaders. We're doing this because it also is good business sense. And so we really then fuel the growth of companies as we do this going forward. So once again, thank you both so much for being here, for sharing your views, for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Craig. And thanks, Amrita, for having connected here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Craig. Thanks, Urvi. Nice to learn about some great things you all are doing as well in this space. So great learning opportunity today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so what a great webinar that was. It's so powerful listening to two inspiring leaders who've have a lot of credibility. As women, they have grown. They have taken opportunities. They've shared with us what have they done. We also heard of how we can create an ecosystem, build and support other women leaders to continue to grow. So what are some of the key takeaways? Well, we started on the mindset. We want to have a growth mindset, certainly. We want to do some deep reflection, understand our strengths, be able to leverage our strengths fully. We want to make sure we don't hold ourselves or stop ourselves with the domain strength alone, but go outside, engage beyond with the wider organization as well. We heard of the importance of building your brand. We heard some steps on how can we do that. We saw the importance from both our leaders around communication, right? To articulate, communicate, socialize, use the tools to socialize. We saw the need to firepower your leadership skill. And you can do that in a number of ways. We also, a very powerful way is to be willing to be vulnerable. And of course, build some of those skills around networking, the skills around influencing, especially influencing when you don't have authority. And so that was, let's say, a blueprint of skills that all of us can think about. What about as leaders in HR? How do we enable women leaders? We can have focused programs, but also build an ecosystem, right? Have employee resource groups for women leaders, by women leaders, include men. We saw the importance of needing to and doing that as well. We saw, we heard of it can be very, very empowering when the sponsor is a woman leader herself, right? And then there's a lot of openness as we create an environment for our women leaders to continue to grow. Of course, by doing all of this, we, as organizations, we leverage fully the power of women. Now, as we conclude, I thought at Inspire One, how do we think of this together? So here's what I'm just going to go back maybe to a slide we shared a little earlier. Maybe, we were talking about shine. What is shine at the beginning? She inspires. And really, we saw from the research, and I'll go back to that research, that women outperform male counterparts in most of those high performance behaviors, which is the thinking, the engaging, the achieving that you see on screen. But where they don't is the inspiring cluster. And interestingly, as we heard from our women leaders on this webinar, we heard of influence, we heard of brand, we heard of communicate, really all in that inspiring cluster. Yeah, and so as we look at how do we bring this alive at Inspire One, for those of you from HR, I'd just like to maybe show a simple design that we've created as part of Shine. So here's how we are thinking and looking at it. Obviously, there's a lot more detail, and we'd be happy to share individually. But we think of making our emotional intelligence assessment core because it involves a lot of deeper self-reflection, as we heard from our women leaders. And therefore, PQM as an assessment to start us off, to give us some of those personal insights. What do I leverage, to build my confidence, for instance, right? It's easy to say build confidence. What do I leverage? What are those levers? And then, of course, as you can see from the design, what we'd like to do is to cover emotions uh, as module 1 and spread out that learning over a few weeks. Follow a similar pattern in module 2, but this time look at personal brand, right? Building that brand. And again, spread that learning out over 4 weeks. And then finally, some of those key skills we heard of influencing. And again, because it's a skill, we need time to be able to practice, and therefore, again, spread that learning over 4 weeks. An overall 15-week journey that'll really help to build women leaders and help them, equip them with some of these things that we've been talking about in this session. So hopefully, team, you've found this very useful. We've been really, really happy, excited. We were looking forward to host this, and we hope we've now enabled you to think through and make some decisions for yourself. Thank you very much for joining in. Wish you all the very best on your career. Take care. Until next time. Bye-bye.